So Natalie, welcome to our podcast show on
Thank you for
digital
having me.
transformation. It's good to have you over here. And we at Better Tech try to work with C-level people and up executives like you to talk about newer topics for our listeners. And it's great to have you over here. So it will be helpful if you can talk a little bit about yourself, about your experience so that our listeners understand whom they're listening to.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So, yes, I've worked in technology since the late 90s. Really, back then, digital was about helping companies to utilize digital channels such as web and, in some cases, mobile and SMS to create new business opportunities and to serve their customers. And I've spent more than 20 years now in telco and telecommunications. Mainly, I spent a lot of time in British Telecom, a lot of time in Vodafone Group, and more recently in Huawei, leading transformation programs with digital disruption at their core. And, we can get into what that means in a while, but really helping them create new digital services and capabilities, helping them automate and centralize things. And most recently, while I was at Huawei, I worked with a lot of the customers and partners to formulate digital transformation strategy for a number of those companies, which is really a radical change for most organizations and needs to be led from the top down. So that's been really a snapshot of what
So
I've
seems
done.
like we are in for a treat because you seem to have a lot of experience in that particular area. So for us, I mean, we've been hearing this digital transformation as a buzzword for quite some time now, but still digital transformation can mean a few things to a few different people. So what do you really, in your terms, what is really a digital transformation, and for a layman, what it should be?
So, like you said, Umair, so it's digital transformation can mean a lot of things, and I think it's become a little bit of a bucket that a lot of things are thrown into. It has multiple meanings depending on who you're talking to and what the company needs are. And this can mean, overhauling your customer experience to serve your customers better and automate and use your data in a better way. Or it can mean recreating your ability to deploy new products and digital services like IoT, like streaming and other opportunities that are coming up now through technology. And some other companies are looking at digitalizing their operations and re-engineering all their processes. Um, and it can be all those three, and it can be a combination, but really to me, it's about radically changing the way you sell to and serve customers by transforming your company, your operation, your culture, your technology using digital. And the focus is really to enable your business to identify and react to the market in an effective and efficient manner.
So let's assume I, as an organization, raise my hand today and ask you that I want to be digitally transformed, even though I'm doing a lot of things digitally. What do you feel, where should I start? What could be the key components of a digital transformation that needs to be in place for an org to start on this journey?
Most companies are ill prepared for fast innovation. So you need to create a program around that. And any transformation, when you're creating such a radical change within a company, it needs to be led from the top down. So you need to have real buy-in from your CEO, from your executive layer. You need to be able to communicate to your employees and motivate them in a good manner. And actually create that commitment long-term, and give them the tools to be able to carry out that transformation and to, change the processes, change the way that you're working, change the culture within the company.
So we do understand that in a digital transformation or digitally transformed organization, everyone needs to be on board. But within the company, who you feel owns this digital transformation? I mean, CIOs own the IT, the CMOs own the marketing. Who owns the digital transformation?
Everything changes from the top to the bottom. So really, I say the CEO owns it. It needs to be something that on a daily or weekly basis, the exco are involved in. There's no other way to do it. Otherwise, you don't really change the company, and you don't make a step change in terms of, you don't prepare for the future. in a good
So,
way.
so CEOs are typically focused on the growth of the company and and navigating them through tough times as well as in the time of opportunities, really for really accelerating the growth. So, in terms of digital transformation, it needs to bring certain opportunities to the company that so to excite CEOs to be fully vested with it. So, what kind of opportunities, in your opinion, a digital transformation journey can bring to an organization that can really make everyone excited?
So really for a CEO, I think it's the ability to create much more revenue by creating a new product set that's interesting to your customers, expanding your customer base, being able to retain those customers in a better way.
So as I see, and we'll come to that. So as I see, as telcos could be the really be the end customers of a digital transformation, and they're also, in my opinion, are the means to a digital transformation in other organizations. I mean, they bring that kind of infrastructure that other orgs can really use to accelerate their digital uh, transformation program. Do you kind of agree to this statement, or you feel I'm a little off over here?
I do agree with it in the sense that, you know, a lot of companies that offer digital products
Mm-hmm.
will leverage the networks in order to deliver those digital products. And telcos need to be prepared to offer the services that support those products that are being offered on the market. It's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
But telcos aren't involved in every single kind of digital service that's out there necessarily. We have companies like Google and Amazon that are, very big players in terms of offering these digital services. But telcos are obviously own the networks, and manage the networks. And when you're on the move and you're using your mobile phone, when you've got an app that you want to use, that's going to go over your mobile network. So it's an over-the-top type service that you're using. So in terms of leveraging networks, the telcos play a big game a big part of enabling you to access those services in terms of networks. But we can't forget as well that that's not the only use, and telcos really want to move away from just doing that. They want to be able to provide some of these services themselves, some of these auxiliary services, some of these apps themselves. So it's a
From providing
two-sided
voice
thing.
to becoming a pipe for these Amazons and Google of the world, I see telcos are now trying to provide some of these digital transformation services themselves. And I guess that's where they're kind of provider of these services as well, not just the end customers for these services.
It's a mixed bag, and it depends on the telco, and it depends on the size of the telco and what they want to do. So I think a lot of them are really not leveraging the opportunities well enough that, transforming, they're not leveraging digital in an effective enough manner. We see that on a day-to-day basis in terms of how they handle us as customers and how do they handle consumers, if you know what I mean. You don't have a consistent customer experience when you engage with a telco, and you don't have the volume of products that you could have, so they're not taking the opportunities to actually, they're not fast enough to the market yet. So I think actually when we look at your big, colossal telcos, they're not transforming as fast as they would like to. And so I would say we're still maybe very early on in terms of the potential that digital transformation offers. And like I touched on before, I think there's still disparate knowledge in terms of the customer. There's no big data. There's no analytics that really leverages the information that telcos have about their customers. And there's a lot of information there. Your customer experience isn't consistent. Like I said, the products aren't deployed. Products coming to market is not a fast enough process. And actually the company being able to react and create new processes around new products and innovate is not fast enough. And there's
So
a lot
right
of
now, you
duplication.
feel telcos' digital transformation efforts are largely focused on creating probably uh, multi-channel, omni-channel kind of experiences versus leveraging a lot of data and all that. So I mean, where right now the efforts are focused on in terms of telcos.
I think there's maybe a lack of focus still in terms of creating a streamlined program that addresses all of these issues. Regarding omni-channel, that needs to be part of any digital transformation. And unless you bring together your customer-facing processes and your channels, then you won't be able to actually retain your customers, and you won't be able to deploy new products to market in a good way. So, and you know the story, you know, you go online, you try to do something, you don't succeed, and then you call the call center, you go to the shop, and they have no idea what you've done. Right. And you have to explain yourself again, and they struggle to authenticate you. And, you know, really bringing together your channels and doing omni-channel should be something that you know, you should be able to do something online, and then you go into the store and they know who you are the minute you've walked in. They do a very light authentication with you, and then they're able to see that you've tried to do something online, and they guide you through the process and help you complete that transaction. So omnichannel is a critical part of digital transformation, because companies, large traditional companies that have a lot of channels, don't do it well. But I don't think that necessarily most companies are focusing on that yet. I think there's too much going on, and it's become a little bit difficult to create a program that addresses everything. And you know, that's where good management, you know, good ownership at the top level, and being able to break down your issues into bite-sized pieces, and having.
I guess we are now moving into the territory of where the challenge lies in creating this digital transformation. So I just wanted to structure that question. So where do you feel the challenge lies? Is it just the inertia of a big organization? Telcos are big and they just cannot do it. I mean, they just cannot switch a button and like a startup and start doing something else. Or is this not a focus, not enough desire, or they don't see enough value?
I definitely don't think it's not seeing the value. I think the value is good, and maybe there's a lack of communication between the departments and up to the highest level in terms of the how big the value is in terms of doing something like this. But I actually think it's lack of organization. It's lack of organization and bringing people together, with the right knowledge, and giving them the freedom to become disruptive and to create that kind of change within a company. You know, often you have to re-engineer all of your processes.
Sorry? Is it lack of organization because of too much organization there? Because I mean, it's a paradoxical question, because they're too organized and people are working too much within certain boundaries. So the kind of digital or omnichannel disruption you're looking for, it requires a lot of collaboration at various ends and some key stakeholders being on part of that. But when there is a lot of boxes in a large organization, I mean, too much of an organization, that's where they struggle to do this digital transformation. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you come at it. So how do you mean a lot of boxes?
So, I mean, so I work with telcos and with my company in many areas. I mean, we develop software, so we have worked with them in many areas, and I've seen that if you're talking to marketing, you're talking to marketing, and to do some certain things, you need a support from maybe a networks department or some other departments, and they don't talk to each other. I mean, and there's a layer of bureaucracy that you have to navigate to make things happen. So that that just. I would say that is too much organization. I mean, people are not agile enough to think that this is an important initiative and I need to do that. They need an approval, who needs another approval, and who needs another approval, and the initiative gets lost. So to me, it feels like there is too much organization rather than less organization.
So bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy. In order to, I think, I've seen two ways of doing it. I think companies go about it the wrong way when they're expecting that people will create a transformation as part of their day-to-day job. You can't get people that have BAU things that they need to do and keep the company running, and in parallel also do a transformation and be part of Scrum and, you know, be part of the innovation process, because you're asking people to do too many things. I think one of the good ways I've seen it done is to create a completely separate program where you've got, you know, take people out of certain departments and get them to work together, and it's their full-time job. they have the knowledge of the existing processes, they have the knowledge of how the company works and how the customers, what the customer needs are, and they come together in order to create a completely new organization and operation and processes. And actually they're able to innovate in a much better way because you give them the time to do that, and they actually start talking to each other, which has a massive impact on how you restructure the company after.
It's very
Because
similar
they're going to realize
to when you put a same team doing production support and new developments. It never works out for companies. I mean, because there is some fire up that you need to put out, and at the same time you have to develop something new. So I mean, I
exactly.
can sense it, because you need people to have a focused time thinking like that, and while not being worried about their day-to-day operations. So yeah, I can agree with that.
So back to your example, if you've got somebody from sales and you've got someone from product management and you've got somebody from procurement, and they're all sitting in a room together, you know, and somebody who does operations, etc., and they're all sitting in a room together, they're able to make decisions in a much more rapid manner and create much more radical change and identify the information that they need to give to each other in order to work in a better manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where I guess when you stated in the beginning that CEO needs to take the ownership of that. So if you are creating a group, that group needs to be empowered, and I think that really needs to come from the top to create an empowered group that can move the company in this direction. I guess that's right. So if you are hypothetically a CEO of a telco, what is the first digital transformation initiative would you take at your org?
The first transformation initiative. I think the first thing I would do is set up a factory type thing. And this is not a development factory or a technology factory, but a factory that takes a few processes and changes them and creates the modules, the building blocks in order to create the new process and create a new product and see how that functions, you know, and tweak that and actually deploy it and see how successful it is. I would actually create a small organization and team that's able to deploy and change things in a rapid manner and make decisions on what works and what doesn't work very quickly.
So you would typically go through a model of creating a hypothesis, thinking about results, and then implementing a process and see if the results are married up to your initial expectations, and then keep on evolving.
And use that learning into the next cycle, taking the next process, changing that, and actually in parallel, maybe creating new products as well. I think, you know, the innovation and the production cycle in terms of creating new change needs to go together. And you need to be able to know what works very early on. Otherwise, you end up doing a massive transformation with things that potentially, and processes that don't work together. So actually, you need to test things out as you go along and see the value coming out of things. And that gives people a lot of personal reward as well. It keeps people motivated.
And if they are hitting some certain business objectives, which they can see, they'll keep on doing it. I mean, you cannot just do digital transformation for the sake of transformation. It has to eventually tie up with something.
And it breeds innovation. It breeds innovation, and it actually starts to create a culture change within the company, which enables employees to experiment more and not fear failure as much. Spread that out in terms of how that process works, and the innovation and the experimentation that people go through, and the ability for them to say, I don't think this works, and I think this will work a lot better. And let's change direction, and empowering people to be able to do that needs to spread across the company.
The customer question, I guess the COVID has really, hit upon the need for digital transformation and companies to have omni-channel experiences. Or right now there's a single channel, which is an online channel, but you have now so many channels within the online channel that you need to create a singular experience. So you feel that the COVID has kind of underscored the need for digital transformation and has accelerated the process as we are trying to move out of it?
Yes. So I think COVID has actually created a lot of opportunities for digital companies. And, you know, there's a lot more focus on people working remotely, that offers a lot of opportunities. You know, companies need to be looking into how they can reach customers and consumers at their home, you know, at their premises or wherever they are, whether it's physically or via, you know, online, in terms of the services that they provide. I think that part of digital transformation is the ability to enable your employees to also work remotely. Obviously, COVID has made that a really big deal.
Yeah.
And cloud plays a really big role in that as well. Because, you know, a lot of employees and a lot of companies functioned in the way that you had to go into the office in order to access the information that you need, and there's no other way to do it. And actually, you know, we've seen a really big shift to cloud services and companies trying to enable their employees to work from home. There's a big opportunity there, you know, in terms of the services that companies provide and telcos provide, especially in terms of supporting those companies. And apart from that, there's a lot of IoT and other types of opportunities that arise from people being around their home environment a lot more. And I don't think that's leveraged enough.
I can personally also vouch for that, because we
Yeah.
are a professional services software development company. And while the world was getting hit with COVID, we were getting really an uptick in the kind of requirements that we were getting in terms of our services, because now everyone really needs to get digitally transformed. They need to make sure that people can work from home and so on and so forth. So yeah, so I guess COVID has kind of accelerated that. How about this AI machine
So, and
learning
out
thing?
of curiosity, just on what you're saying, so what kind of jump did you see and what kind of change did you see in the behavior, you know, of people engaging with your company?
So there are a couple of things that I have seen actually. One is that initially when the COVID kind of started, everybody frozen. I'm talking about like Feb, March kind of a time, and everything was kind of frozen. No, nothing new. And right now, I mean, we kind of doubled in the last 2 or 3 months, because there's so much work coming in. Some people, as you said, now people are realizing that this thing can come again, and their processes, as you have just said, they are not online. You have to come to an office to access that process. So there are a lot of cloud migration is happening. A lot of processes that were requiring paper or whatnot or face-to-face meeting, they are now getting digitized. So organizations are digitizing their data, digitizing their processes, moving them to the cloud, so they can work as a distributed organization. And that's where we're seeing the uptake of services. So as I said, digitization of processes, digitization of workflows, digitization of any data. Now, when you digitize that data, it brings another important opportunity into the play, which is where this all AI and machine learning thing comes in, because machine learning thing needs a lot of data. And the more data that you have in a digital format, the better machine can learn out of it. So that was my question to you as well. That do you see this AI machine learning thing is helping digital transformation? This automation is really helping this digital transformation journey, or you think that it's right now a buzzword and it's a little too far ahead in the lane where they can really start impacting like digital transformation?
I think digital transformation can aid in the adoption of AI,
Yeah.
of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I think there's potential in machine learning in terms of how you approach and interact with your customers and the kind of products that you offer to them. You know, machine to machine and generally IoT can offer so much information that it can radically change the way that consumers behave and how they live their day-to-day lives. So there's a lot of untapped potential there.
For now, IoT and all this thing, they are generating a lot of data, and telcos are essentially helping companies like us move their data from point A to point B. So if there is an edge-based computing system and it's generating a lot of data, that data needs to be coming to certain central server where companies like us can process it. And I guess that's where telcos are becoming very important for us. But I see. I really see in terms of my customers, I mean, they are now just going at a very top speed in automating their processes. And in the process, as I said, they are generating a lot of data, which feeds into machine learning AI, and these processes are now getting automated with the help of this machine learning as well. So yeah, this is what we have seen. So where do
So
you
actually,
think?
you're automating in an automated manner. You're using machine learning in order to automate processes automatically. It's actually suggesting your automated process through your learning. Is that true?
So I guess machine learning is somewhere. It's not yet there. I mean, in terms of figuring out automatically what it needs to automate, but in
Yeah.
certain specific conditions.
So what you've just described then would be able to accelerate digital transformation in a very good way. If you're able to monitor processes, whether they're machine processes or as long as you've got digital data, like you said before, if you're able to monitor processes in that way, and then you're able to automatically make suggestions on how to improve those processes and automate them, then that would accelerate the boring part maybe of your digital transformation. And when I talk about the boring part, it's the re-engineering of your processes.
So what I've seen really is that you need digital transformation to really do something with AI and machine learning. I mean, AI is there for like past 60, 70 years. And why it's getting so much hype right now is because the organizations have over the last decade or two, they are becoming more and more digital, which means they have more and more data. Now this data gets fed, the machine learning gets fed on this kind of data. And then based on that data, it creates certain stuff which get then feeds back into the original digital transformation. So it's kind of a cyclic in nature that one thing is actually promoting other, and then which is promoting back the digital transformation. So that's what what I have observed.
Yeah, and almost digital transformation becomes a new way of life. So you will not stop innovating and you won't stop that cycle of improvement. The program won't necessarily stop. It will just become a BAU way of working in terms of your constant improvement and constant monitoring of the market to make sure that you're relevant.
So I guess, I mean, at the end of every framework, the last step is always a continuous improvement step. So I think this is also getting there, where you are constantly getting a feedback, constantly improving, get a new set of feedback, try to narrow down your statistical limits, try to improve further, and so on and so forth. So yeah. So in terms of
But actually
yeah.
being able to, the complete change in mindset is actually using your data and having the tools in place to be able to create intelligence from that data that you have in order to create that continuous improvement. And companies don't work that way at the moment.
Yeah, and the
Very basic.
biggest challenge that I've seen is generally because it's and as you said, it's a kind of investment that you first need to put in, and you have to change the organizational culture to be ready for that. So that kind of investment, that kind of a push, if it comes in, only then you start to seeing some results somewhere down the road. And then once you start seeing that result, then the belief starts kicking in, and then it accelerates the process. But you need to have a bit of faith that this process is going to work.
Yeah, and that's really the end point, you know, and in order to get to that end point where you're doing that in a very effective and good way, all of the culture and the underlying process and the technology and the operations need to have changed within a company in order to adopt that in a good manner. So you have to, that's the thing, the digital transformation is your vehicle in order to be able to adopt that new model of using big data and using AI.
That new model will then transform your digital transformation, because it will tell you what you need to get to even get better on that. So anyway, I think that's a discussion that requires maybe an entire podcast on
Yes.
itself.
Yes, very interesting as well.
Yeah. So where do you feel, I mean, in terms of digital transformation, you think there are any new frontiers that as companies we will be reaching in the next few years, maybe 3, 5 years, a decade? Where we are heading? And then we'll just wrap this up.
Yeah, I think we're heading towards, and I would like to see us go towards companies, and not just telcos, but generally companies that handle their customers in a completely different way, have a completely new mindset in terms of how they engage with their customers, using every single potential customer touch point that they can possibly use, because your phone and your laptop are not the only way, and are not the only way to engage a customer. You could engage a customer via the screen on their coffee machine if you wanted to, and actually I think that's, we're very early in that journey. So and I would like to see companies innovating continuously. I'd like to see technology be pushed in a much faster way than it is currently.
So what I see as a kind of framework that you are telling us is that customer experience is the focal point. So you think about the customer experience, and to create that kind of a customer experience, you actually can come back and find out the components of the digital transformation that are required to create that kind of a customer experience. So I mean, one framework could be is you can really build bottom up. You can keep on digitally transforming your organization and build customer experience on top of that, or you can go top down where you figure out this is a kind of experience I really want to give to my customer, and what do I need to really create in terms of my digital organization to reach that kind of experience. I mean, both things can be done. I guess the older organization, the bigger organization, they'll take the bottoms up approach, and the newer one probably take the top down approach.
I actually slightly disagree with that, in that if you do a bottom-up approach, you don't get the benefits fast enough to actually keep interest in the program. Okay. You need to do slices. I think you need to slice all the way from the top to the bottom and find things that you're able to do in a slice. But obviously there's a bit of infrastructure that you need to change. But actually you are able to slice, even if you're sticking some bits together with sticky tape. You know, actually being able to demonstrate a complete change in terms of a process and a product that you're deploying to a customer, and complete change in how you're handling that customer from the top to the bottom. That's, you know, compared to what you were doing before, that's the thing that will keep the interest and will keep people wanting, you know, want to keep going in that transformation experience, and keep doing it with all the other products and keep creating new products. You know, otherwise, if you're going bottom up, then it's just something that's infrastructure, it's in the background, and not enough people are understanding how that is creating benefit for the company.
So I guess you and I can go on and on talking about this, and I'm really enjoying this conversation now. But my team somewhere is pinging me saying that you guys are like 30-40 minutes, and let's keep the podcast one episode confined to something like 30 minutes. So I'll just leave it over here, and I guess this discussion is taking good shape. Maybe we can get together for a second or third episode for this and take this conversation forward on a specific topic. But it was great having you with me on this podcast, Natalie, and I really enjoyed our conversation over here.
Me too. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'd be happy to have a follow-up discussion on any of these topics. I think there's a lot to talk about.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.